Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Greenwood. I'm going to be interviewing Jiha Moon today. I'd like to begin by thanking Professor Christopher Trinashti, the Oberlin Center for Languages and Cultures, and the Oberlin Classics Department for making this conference possible. I'd also like to thank Dr. Yumi Kim at Wofford College in South Carolina for introducing me to the work of our guest today, Jiha Moon. And I'd particularly like to thank Jiha Moon for agreeing to be interviewed today about her work. I know our time is short, so let me briefly introduce artist Jiha Moon, give you a little bit of her biography. She was born in South Korea and received a BFA at Korea University and an MFA at Jiha University in Seoul before coming to the US and doing it again, receiving both an MA and an MFA from the University of Iowa. She has been incredibly productive as an artist in many mediums, including painting and prints, ceramics, textiles, and mixed media. And she has worked in numerous she has works in numerous public collections, including the Hirshhorn Museum and the National Museum of Women in the Arts in DC, the Asia Society Museum in New York, the Kemper Museum in Kansas City, and academic museums like the Smith College Museum, the Schnitzer Museum at the University of Oregon, as well as the Allen Memorial Art Museum here at Oberlin College. Her work has been shown internationally, but she is based in Atlanta and has noted that she has lived in the US now longer than she had in South Korea. Her work reflects and comments on her transcultural identity in what writer Felicia Feaster has called wild, swirling cyclones of references. Moon herself has said about her work, quote, "I always feel like I'm sort of in between places all the time, and I try to find the beauty within that. Identity is something really complex and shifty and changeable, and that type of thing is always present in my work," end quote. Because of the subject of this conference today, I want to do something that may in fact be antithetical to Moon's transcultural aesthetic by focusing just on aspects of her work that relate to traditional East Asian myths and symbols. So just that one element of her work. I think it'll be pretty clear to viewers that she is weaving together many different cultural strands in her fascinating creations. And I think that the work in the upper right is a great entree to these topics. So with that, welcome, Jiha Moon.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Kevin, for inviting me for this conversation.
Absolutely. I wanted to start out with this work, Snow White Detourist. It's a screen print you produced in 2012. And I think it's a great sort of entree into your work in that it just kind of puts together two elements. One, of course, is Snow White, that may be very recognizable to people in the audience. This wonderful Disney character, so iconic, so famous, who was in a fantasy world in nature and that kind of thing. But you've tied that together with really traditional images of heaven in an East Asian, religious context, right? Or lands of the immortals, or magical people in this sort of other realm. And elements of that other realm include, the mountains and the deer that you can see down below, and there's things like peaches and other things in here. So the title is Detourist, right? And I love that because it's like she's a tourist in this world, but it's as if she detoured in there kind of by accident, right? I love the way you kind of play with that. So I wonder if you could just sort of comment on this work a little bit.
Yeah, I think that voyeuristic perspective is really sort of playing important roles or in many of my work. And when we look at Western culture, meaning that I'm me as a Korean, the Western culture is very exotic to me. But for the Westerner, they look at Asian culture in a very exotic. So we kind of look at each other like we think we're very exotic, like others, different. So I wanted to sort of focus on that voyeuristic perspective in this piece, looking at each other or thinking about, experience, like, what kind of experience you have when you travel. And oftentimes it's misleading you. Like you think about the places unknown, you travel, and the days before you even visit that place, your fantasy kind of build up. And actually, that's really fantastic in a way. And actually, when you get to visit that place, you realize, oh, that's kind of different from what I imagined. So in this piece, I'm sort of like trying to focus on that exotic experience, like how we see others, that fantasy sort of adds up on our own experience, although that can be different in the future, or sometimes it's misleading or misunderstanding other people's culture as well. So Disney for me obviously is very familiar as a childhood memories, like how I understand the storytellings by having that American pop culture is very fun and exotic for me, and vice versa, like in Western culture. So here I'm not just I guess talking about one type of experience, but coming from both ends, and sort of the image came out as my own sort of experience. So here, Snow White is visiting, fantastical place that's kind of unknown, but this, Asian angels also, looking at her in a very different way. So, and then all this narrative kind of become more unexpected but exciting in process. I have certain reference like images that I look at it, but there's a lot of altering and the process changed a lot. So using also one color here for screen print, there's a lot of missing information. So the line quality and color itself become kind of complex and camouflage. So you kind of have to see all this drawing quality to figure out what's going on.
And I think in a previous conversation, we talked about how the quality of line that in a sense in a Western context is associated with graphic arts, right? The outlines and the character of line, whereas in East Asia, certainly in the painting traditions of China, Korea, and Japan, line is really central, right? It's almost more important than other elements of the painting, and you certainly capture, and so that I think is one of the things you do, bringing together, sort of high and low, and sort of flattening those distinctions in a way between those different cultural traditions. I think we see it really clearly here in this piece.
Yeah, that's actually very important because also I guess like especially for younger generation, when they see my work and they kind of pick on the quality that they are familiar with. So it's a graphic and animation type of like, line qualities. But like you mentioned, the Eastern Asian the traditional manuscript paintings and a lot of different references you'll see, the images like images have full of different mark makings and different values of like, black and grays, and oftentimes it's sort of blend into that graphic sort of mark making that people don't notice immediately. But obviously this is screen print, so it's one color, and then just the line quality is so even more blend in. But as you can carefully see, some areas like there's a different thickness of like brush strokes, and like some areas are very controlled and some areas more even out graphic quality of like mark making. So those mark makings all connected with the different expression. But like I said, it's really camouflage, and I think that's actually a fun part. When you're looking at it, it kind of slows you down. So I guess in that sense, I kind of titled it in a way that detouring, instead of like directly going somewhere, you kind of like get lost and then get back on a track, and then you detouring the images to sort of realize what's going on.
And you never know what you're going to bump into, I guess, right? When
Yes.
I love it. And one of the reasons for the elevation of line in painting in East Asia, at least, is its associations with calligraphy, right? As sort of the highest, most respected form of art, and so line just has this sort of almost elite kind of quality to it. And we see a little a little bit of calligraphy in here, at least the title cartouche that says tourist, right?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Well, let me just move on to another painting, and I think this is a great opportunity to look at what you were just talking about, the idea that you transform, your references and transform these other works into your painting. So I'm going to jump. So this one's called Procession Detours 2. This one's actually a painting and not a print, ink and acrylic, and then some glitter that we'll see in just a moment. And I'd also point out that it's on hanji paper, so traditional Korean paper that has an incredible history, and I just wanted to point that out. But in this slide, we see one of the sources, I think, for your painting, a very famous work by the Chinese painter Wu Zongyuan, and it's a procession of immortals, right? So sort of powerful gods and spirits in kind of a religious context. But here you can see the character of the line and the modulation of the line and different types of line that we were just talking about. So I'm going to jump in to a detail where you can see one of those figures kind of transformed in this work. So I wonder if you could maybe touch on how you find these works and react to them and then transform them in your work.
Yes, absolutely. So the Korean mulberry paper, hanji, that I use, I actually get from Korean National Treasure. Um, the guy passed away, but he produced this like beautiful family business, like mulberry paper, stained with tree bark. So the brown color comes with it, and it's like really sort of old, a very classical, antique looking paper that I absolutely adore. And I wanted to pick the color that sort of sparkle with that and then kind of elevates that, that like old and new sparkle. So that I came up with blue. Color blue is a really amazing color for me. It's very Western. For me, when I think about blue and white in that sense, in ceramic work, how cobalt is like going back and forth between Eastern and Western. I mean, back then when I was making this painting, I wasn't really thinking about like working in ceramic, but I was just
let
really.
me just interrupt real quick. So I just want to point out what you're referring to is the cobalt that was used to create those blue underglaze ceramics, the blue and whites that are so famous.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So that in that sense, I was thinking color blue, like more sort of like connecting color for Eastern and Western also. For me, the blue is very exotic color. When I think about like one color that represent Western, that could be blue. I guess in that sense of like blue and white and Delft wear,
Yeah.
also as well as my husband's eye color, the Westerners have a blue eye color that absolutely we like Asian don't have it unless you wear blue contact lenses these days, right? And also you go to like grocery store, you see this like a blue orchid. It's really amazing eye-popping color, but you also know that they're not real. They like often dyed with like you know food coloring stuff. So it has a lot of like layers of meanings, and I really thought that in this case color blue will sparkle against this like beautifully stained tree bark brown color. So I use blue, but here, like I mentioned, that I use several different blue, like cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, just to talk about how deep and layered the blue can be. So at first you see type of monochromatic, decision making, but upon a closer inspection, you can see all types of different blue. And also, like, I got this like sparkling, like, what do you call that?
Glitter.
Glitter is like a scrapbooking material, Martha Stewart scrapbooking material from the store that, we talked about scrapbooking before all the social media got so popular these days, and scrapbooking was really popular for people to, decorate their memories and, photos and stuff. So object itself sort of reference our current time, or now it's probably like 10, 15 years ago, scrapbooking become a part of the history. But I really like the fact that how object sort of reference our, like the current time at the moment. So when I was working this painting at the moment, scrapbooking was in the store and was really popular.
And it was really kind of a social thing as well, right? Where people would make it together and they would
Absolutely.
share together and all that. So
Yes, like a
yeah.
mother and daughter or friends, like, like friendship bracelet. People get together, cut out things, and then doing crafty stuff, but being in the community. So that was really, I mean, a lot about, scrapbooking activity. So people recognize this, but later on, you'll see how I replace this object to nail decals in one of my print that I start using nail decal, way. Well, I really like the juxtapose, like something old with something really new, color-wise, material-wise, also image-wise.
I, I like this idea of scrapbooking that you mentioned, because scrapbooks are kind of a way of capturing memories and history, and oftentimes they have their own significance to the people that are making them, their own sort of personal symbolism, their own personal iconography that that they would reference, they would recognize, that other people might not recognize,
Absolutely.
right? And I think kind of a similar thing is found in your work, right, where you have your own sort of idiosyncratic, your own personal symbols that appear again and again and again in your work. Um,
Absolutely.
and one that I think is great in this particular work is this little sort of bird human figure. Let me just jump ahead because I've pulled this one out in the work before, and also in this one. Could you talk a little bit about this little figure? So he's sort of got a human head, but a bird's body, and carrying a letter in its mouth. And I'm gonna jump ahead to a new work where you can see that figure a little more clearly.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this figure came from one of Korean minhwa painting. It's the popular figure, and then it's part of the letter Shin, which means trust or believe. And this Korean mythology, the queen delivered the good news through bluebird. And this little bird with the human head is a bluebird, actually.
Okay.
So I got that reference, but from the traditional reference, it's usually like a man, because I can tell because it has a mustache. But I wanted to create my own version. Like I wanted like this to be sweet and loving. You can't really tell whether it's a man, like boy or girl, sort of like has a baby face. And also one of my favorite iconography is peaches. Well, that it's a big symbol in the South, but also has a very significant meaning in like, Korean culture, that people believe that peaches chase the bad spirit away. So they have like a traditional meaning, like throughout the entire history of Korea, and probably like Japan and China too. So I combine these. Oh, sometimes I have like this welcome pineapple on top, but it kind of goes and comes and go. But each painting I have like changed a little bit. So a similar character, but like they're slightly all different.
And I just want to point out, you had mentioned the cranes as this important symbol, and you can see that crane here here on the right. And there's the figure. Those are the peaches that you're referring to. There's a little Twitter bird at top. So this is a bluebird. So there's this sort of playful reference to the Twitter, the old Twitter symbol up there. So there's really just a tremendous amount of content happening here. Let's jump ahead to another one. So this is call you. So you mentioned that the bluebird is part of the letter Shin in this traditional form of calligraphy, right? Where characters have sort of decorative, pictorial elements to them.
Yes.
And this is kind of an example of that. So let me just blow this up a little bit. And I wonder
Yes.
if you could, yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us about
So this character, I mean, like, in old time Korean mythology, the birds deliver the good news, right? And then it's called it's bluebird. And I was kind of making the association with the bluebird because it's hope and symbol of, like, happiness. And like, I was thinking about Disney, like, over the rainbow song, and like, how bluebird become a hope, symbol of hope.
it.
But then in the contemporary time, how bluebird also very contaminated in that way that the meaning kind of transform and change into something else. And like, so I wanted to match with, Twitter bird, because the Twitter bird is also bluebird. And I don't know, it's like, I also like my work sort of have, duality. The meaning of like duality is like day and night, man and woman, like good and evil, like, so like in that sense, you think about the Twitter, like they're not always delivering only good news, right? So
Yeah.
politically,
Yeah.
and if we thinking about the current climate change, like you can't really say that bluebird, like, is always hopeful thing.
It's funny, you had a series of works, and I know that there was an exhibition that you had, that was titled, uh almost everyone's mad here. Is that the quote, right? Which is a quote from Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, and using mad in the sense of, kind of crazy mad. But when you say almost everyone's mad, almost everyone's mad here, to me it sounds like the current sort of political situation,
Absolutely.
right?
I know, right? That's
Yeah.
why I picked that as my traveling show title in 2015. I had a traveling show that Housing Institute put together and travel about 3 years. And that was one of my painting titles. So I look at the series of work that I'm gonna put it in the show, what represent everything, besides describing it too much. Just then that painting, I titled it like, almost everyone's mad here. That's what Cheshire Cat says to Alice when she got lost and she's looking for a tea party. She got lost and she's trying to find that place. And Cheshire Cat disappear and appear and then almost like teasing her, like, am I almost here or not here? Like, the party that you're looking for, actually, they're almost everybody's crazy here. You still want to go. And I think about that a lot, because like I'm sure we feel that way a lot in this contemporary time. I mean, when my traveling show was going on back then, like no COVID or everything was okay, but still like we're like, when we live in our current time, we think about how crazy what's going on outside and how we have to behave and what's my relationship with the society and the culture. So I really thought that was a really good title represent like what I'm trying to say throughout all my like showing all my work. So yeah, that's came from the Cheshire Cat's quote.
And so, and you live in Atlanta, and there was those terrible shootings recently, and I just talk about mad, right? I mean, and how that can sort of affect people on a personal level. And I remember you did an exhibition, or was it an online exhibition that related to those horrific shootings as well?
Yes, it was really unfortunate because I always like am very proud of being in the South and living in Atlanta. How Atlanta is a very culturally diverse and really support people of color. And I was really sort of happy to be in the South. And when that actually happened, I felt super helpless. I felt really paralyzed almost in a way that make me think about what I can do as an artist. I also want people to know that there's a lot of women artists living in Atlanta and trying to show our work. And oftentimes we are very underrepresented and we could be also targeted. And so a lot of mixed emotional feeling, but I just wanted to do something more proactive and make myself feel much better as how society see me as a weak and like underrepresented person, but I just wanted to empower that and use that as a platform to sort of reintroduce women artists who live in the South in Atlanta. So I quickly, my own, to try to help my own feeling, to make me feel better, to be women and like female artists and person of color. So I quickly put together a show and then approached to Atlanta Contemporary Art Center, and then director was really happy to hear that and willing to help. So we created this online format. And a lot of museums and galleries like plan out the show like year or two ahead of time. So we couldn't really make possible the physical show. So, but then throughout the pandemic, we are all practice already how to use this online format, how to connect with people from like Korea to Japan to China or America and France, elsewhere, like, in this horrific time we are together. So I thought that maybe online show is better. You know what I mean? Because everybody can have access the show on using their cell phone and look at the work. And so I thought that, hey, this can be a good thing actually. So all those artists who are in the show actually live in either Atlanta or New York. But I do have a personal connection with them, and I am very familiar with their work. So those artists' work, we also sell it, and then those profit will go to AAAJ directly to help the victim's family and also for the organization.
And the name of the show was Out Loud. Is that
yes?
Is that correct? Out Loud.
Yes.
So if people are looking for that, they can find it.
Yes, I can give you a link after the talk. But yeah, show will be up until I think sometime in mid-August, so still up. And we sold a couple pieces already, but I also would like everybody to see the show, and and just exist. I just kind of like acknowledge these artists exist, and also if you can help, the profit will go to AAAJ. So that will be good. Great.
Well, to kind of return to the idea of like myth and mythology and all that. I want to turn now to the role of the dragon, right? This sort of, again, very common, almost iconic symbol in East Asia, and dragons, of course, are much more positive. In East Asia. In the West, they have a bad reputation, right, for being destructive.
Absolutely.
and all that, right? But in Asia, they're associated with rain and water and all kinds of positive things. So the dragon appears with some frequency in your work. I wonder if you could address what it means to you and how you use it.
It's kind of funny because in Western culture, historically dragon is like kind of evil, and like you've seen a lot of like a religious painting, like dragons get killed. But in Eastern culture, dragons symbolize often the king. It's still very male dominant power. And believe it or not, I try to make sort of fun of that a little bit in my work. So in my work, the dragons kind of like powerless, but they're almost like a little bit funnier, but not so much in this print because I'm directly referencing one of the Korean national treasure, like, the pot, that dragon is depicted that way. I want people to recognize. So I sort of make it very graphic way to design, but the only part that alter is a hand dragon, one of the dragon legs reaching out, trying to capture that banana in the air. But it's pretty much based on the traditional design. But like, the way the dragon acts, like, and trying to, like, for me, that banana is like a hope, or like, something really good, or something really amazing. So that's my interpretation. But overall in my work, dragons are goofy. They're a little bit powerless. They're kind of goofy and funny, approachable. So it's not really sort of male dominant, has a great power, or not so much king-like.
And here he's trying to capture a banana, right? So that has that kind of kind of fun playful
Right.
quality.
It's kind of goofy, but here I was also thinking about, like, as you see, the title is Genie, and like also once again one of the Disney animation. But I was thinking about magic realism, like the dragons coming out of the pot. Like, it's impossible, it's an image, but like how a genie is like free to come out and then let your hope happen. So it has that kind of power, like sort of like a hopeful, magical, like fun, sort of like Disney like dream.
So in this
Indeed.
case, it's like the genie from Aladdin, right?
Yes,
That's sort of
yes.
coming out
I'm
of
sorry, I
the top.
didn't mention Aladdin, but
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah. No,
absolutely.
that's a great connection. And I just, because your work is so layered, I mean, I have to point out the banana is, of course, Andy Warhol's banana, right?
Yeah,
So
yes.
referencing the pop art, the history of pop art, and all the little seals and things on here that kind of connect to the tradition in East Asia of putting an artist seal or a collector seal or whatever. Except here there's a Pac-Man and like a little fortune cookie design and a heart and a peach and all this wonderful, very personal kind of iconography for you in there.
Yes, absolutely. And Pac-Man was one of my very first iconography, like, because Pac-Man is the video game I remember. I personally don't play video game much, but I remember that Tetris and Pac-Man and all that stuff. But like, just like a writer, like you are collecting words, and some of your favorite words are using it over and over again in a different context or different writing. And images kind of work that way for me. So when I'm obsessed with one image, I sort of trying to make sense among all the images that I use. So Pac-Man become a fortune cookie. If you look at the fortune cookie from above, it looks like a Pac-Man shape.
Yeah.
And it looks like a pizza, looks like a heart shape, looks like a peach shape. And then I just like try to make sense in my head. That that's why I'm very obsessed with all these images. They actually very look alike.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm progressing different time period and I'm making a new work, but the history repeats. Like, it kind of like reference the previous work in that way. So in that way, like, I use heart a lot, and I mean, heart is one of the most popular emoji. But then we all know what hearts, like, it's almost a universal symbol. Um, and also brush strokes, like I was thinking about Louis Wittgenstein's brush stroke, how the artists depict Western beauty, like blonde, like hair. But here I use almost sense of like a tie-dye color. So one thing originate from one source image, but it constantly evolve and changes. And then also banana, like you mentioned, the Andy Warhol, Velvet Underground, the album cover. But also here, I was thinking about how second generation of Asian, they reference themselves, almost kind of funny way that, like, inside white, outside yellow, right? So yeah, so it has a lot of different meaning.
I know Roger Shimomura has done similar things with that same imagery. Yeah, that's great. And here's another. I just absolutely love this ceramic piece. And I should point out, you work in textiles and ceramics, and you just have this amazing sort of multimedia ability. So I really wanted to get to this one, but this on one side it has references to traditional Korean mass drama. It's this really long-lasting cultural tradition, and you can see from these masks how those eyes kind of have some similarities. But then on the back, here comes the dragon again, right?
Right, yeah, referencing that. But also, this is funny because when this piece came out, I was a little bit disappointed because this side, so I made a big like, hole on the bottom, like
Mm.
almost like smirk in a way, like, it's like, are you smiling or you're crying? You can't really tell, but it's because of the kiln process. I guess the top part, the where the blue part is attached, is a little too heavy. So in the kiln, it collapses a little bit. It just like sits down a little bit. But and then after a while, I look at it this actually, I like this way almost better. It almost reminds me of Joker in a way.
Yeah,
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 because like
yeah.
the ceramic process, you can't always control. But I actually like it because I almost collaborate with the kiln process. And the front view again, referencing the Korean mask, we call it tal, traditional objects. Um, but she has a smirk too, one on the bottom, Kakshita. I think that's the bride. But here, these holes, like, they also look like emoji, like a smiley face. And like when I do this, there's two parts, one referencing face. For me, emoji is like most economic way to express your emotion in a digital media, right? So we do not want the other party misunderstand, or sometimes you can be a little bit snarky, saying things and then put like smiley face at the end. It
Right.
carries people's emotion, and how crazy it is, very minimal, but still care about people's emotions. So I'm trying to reference that in my work, not only the mask, but that's one part. Also ceramic work, by putting a hole, it's no longer functional. Like it can't hold, water or liquor or anything. It's just the pure sculptural elements that reference traditional objects. So yeah, but I'm really like excited about how my objects, could reference so many things, but also reference nothing, because it's so vague at first. And you just have to look at it over and over again to figure it out. And, it also works with the people all differently. Some people see emoji, some people see the tradition first. Some people also think of like a mask. So it's really up to them how they, gravitate towards something, speak to them, and then build a layer of meanings.
I love that the sort of reception of it is just another part of the art, right? You bring what you bring to the art, but other people are going to bring their own baggage to their own
Yeah, I
interpretation
think
to it.
that's fun part.
And
That's
there's
the
so
most
much to
important
work with
part.
in your art.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that this was kind of a happy accident, right? That came out like this weird smirk, like the Joker. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at first I thought that I messed up, but the more I look at it, I grow to like it.
Yeah.
Now, art is amazing that way. Like, I have a plan, but almost 90% it never comes out the way I expected.
Yeah.
And it just like goes a slightly different direction, but sometimes that's a better direction.
Here's a work from 2015, and this is back to that title, Most Everyone's Mad Here, and it has the mask element, it has the dragon, the deer, the sort of smile at the bottom, the blonde hair, the dark hair. This is an example of one of your works that really just kind of touches on so many different things together in this really kind of really unique way, I think, to your work. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So this is the painting that I choose to use that title for the traveling show that travel about 15 different places for like 3 years. And it's funny because it's so much about the spirit, so much about the existence, that the energy that we cannot objectify, we cannot just like pinpoint one, right? Because I'm trying to capture that energy, referencing many things. But so I want the painting to be very airy,
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to investigate the distance, like something really near, something really far, but it's happening almost like you're painting in the air almost. So if I don't point out like, eyes and mouths and things to look at, people almost don't see it.
Yeah.
It's like a landscape, right?
Yeah.
But then once I kind of point it out, oh, there's a face. There's a face in there. And so that's how excited I am about Cheshire Cat. So what Cheshire Cat like said, most everyone's mad here, but like Cheshire Cat disappear, not appear, disappear, appear. Like he can be funny, but he can be also very scary. It depends on how you feel, right? So for me, like that's how I want to think of bigger force. Like, it can be like religion, it can be God, it can be your mom, it can be your wife or your husband or your child. But like what you think about bigger force, a big energy that you can't really control, how do you want to think about it? Like I want that to be a little bit funnier so that I can deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where the title come from.
And you've got the Cheshire Cat smile down at the bottom there. That's like, that was the last thing I think left behind, right? By the
Yeah. And then the mask,
yeah.
the eye, like there's only one eye, but like, once you kind of see it, you almost kind of figure out the puzzle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that looks like a blonde bang, and then mouse, and then there's all types of detail. But this is painting on canvas, but I mounted with the hanji paper, very thin Korean mulberry paper over it, so I could do a lot of detail as well. So I have all types of different techniques, and from dipping pen to large brush stroke. Also, there are some parts of collage elements as well. So it meant to be looked at really up close and then far at the same time. So every time you look at a painting and you find something new, and then you step back, it kind of disappears. So it's like kind of go back and forth. And then there's a little hole in the eye. I don't know if you can see it right here, the eye. Right, the one of the mask, yeah. Like I punch a hole, so there's like a hole to it too. So that's from the mask reference, like almost like you look at a painting, but you think about the mask. When you think about the mask, you think about wearing it, right? So when you wear it, you go behind it. So through the hole, you look out the world. So I was thinking about that as well.
In this work, TSIKA, the story I did not know about, 2014. I absolutely love this work. I want to zoom into it where we can see again this absolutely amazing collection of things like the double happiness symbol that's so often seen at weddings. There's a penguin. There's a little immortal figure riding on a duck playing a flute. The peaches. And then even the border of it almost reminds me of a South Asian and Indian manuscript painting.
Yes.
Is that kind of where this is? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So painting within painting. I mean, I do play that system a lot. Like, in Korean, like the Asian traditional painting, fan painting or scroll paintings, the fabric part on the silk is just pattern.
Right.
But here I have an opportunity to doodle, like draw lots of things and then interact with the main painting inside image. So it's actually two paintings layer. And then around the borderline, you'll see there's overlapping parts. A penguin's tail kind of come out a little bit and fans a little bit overlapping, like doodle of like the flower shapes and things kind of interrupting. So there's a area that I can negotiate to make more interesting contemporary style of like work on paper.
And the little Cupid dolls, right?
Yes, I was like obsessed with Cupid doll. Guess what? It's funny. Cupid doll, I forgot the original artist's name, but she's something O'Neill. Something O'Neill. We have to Google find out. But she is American illustrator, a very successful American illustrator, a female, and invented Cupid doll, and it was just as popular. So I was really excited about that. The iconography I was obsessed with because the head shape looks like peach. And then ended up that artist, the illustrator, is a very successful female American like artist. So I was really excited, like more reason to use, right?
And so, that was like the early 20th century, right? I mean, it was about.
I think so. She I think she put her like daily cartoon or something on New Yorkers or something.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so but like I was just really excited to know that um, very successful American female illustrator that made lots of money. And so like I was like thinking about Hieronymus Bosch, like, you know, how he create these Dutch painters, like create these monstrous like images and so crazy. But in his lifetime, he was very popular. A lot of people like travel like miles away to like by ship, like, you know, to go look at his painting. You know, it's like 13th century like Dutch painters, like, and he's very successful, almost like the opposite of Vincent van Gogh. You know, his entire family is like as artisans, they're very successful. And we often kind of think about artists like very, oh, like artists are always starved to death and that's their fuel to be creative. Like this just like male genius notion is so ridiculous, and we somehow think that's true. It's not true. Like, you know, you can have family, you can have, you know, kids, and you can, you know, be female and be very successful, like, you know. So I was really excited about to find out that illustrators work, and more reason to use for me.
Even more reason. That's fantastic. And I had never thought about that peach connection before, that their heads look like little
I know
peaches.
the head shape looks like heart shape, also a peach shape. I don't know. So I was like obsessed with one shape, then you just like constantly thinking about it, whether you want it or not. It's in your head.
Yeah.
Every time you see something like, oh, I have to use it, it looks like upside down peach shape. And then my fan painting, like right time, right on time.
Right there.
Fan painting, that shape become also symmetrical, like, you know. But this is one of my early work. So fan looks more like a screen and resemble to traditional shape.
And let me just interrupt real quick. So this is from a tradition, you know, throughout East Asia of painting fans, you know, like
Right,
you used to
handheld
cool yourself.
fan.
And this is
Right,
in the shape of one of those fans. And those fans, oftentimes, if it was by a famous artist, they would remove the painting from the fan and put it in an album. And so that's where this
absolutely.
shape comes
Yes,
from.
where that shape come from. But I also looking at these fan shapes, like, you know, when I go to DC or like a Free or Secular Museum and elsewhere, each fan slightly different
Yeah.
scale and size. They're never exactly same. It's because it's a handmade and you fold it in half and then cut out and open it. So it's a symmetrical shape. So that's why they're all slightly different. And I really like that. So I start using that shape. So next time, look at the fan shape. Sometimes you can find the center line, the folded line gently. So I started making my work that way, fold it in half and then cut it and open up so it's a symmetrical shape. So earlier shape looks more rectangular and then kind of resemble to traditional fan shape. But later on, I kind of went crazy and then make lots of goofy shapes of heart and like, you know, also look like a butt shape and, you know, an upside down like a shape. And also that turned into a mask, like I poke a hole. So it kind of transform a lot. So it comes out in a different way. It comes in my ceramic work as well.
And this particular one, so you've got the fan shape, you've got the peaches, and also a little. And actually, I want to hurry to point out that this is the one that's actually in the Allen Museum. We have this this particular print in our collection, but the little lion figure, right? This that appears in some of your work. How do you? What are your thoughts about the lion? Does he have any particular meaning to you?
Well, I guess it's all kind of come from how we recognize these mythical creatures as like a part of the Asian exotic animal, right?
Right.
So all countries have that. And like the easiest way you probably remember if you go to Chinese restaurant, you know, oftentimes they have these figures like in front of the door, they're like holding a bowl or something, right? The lion, it can be like dog, it could be giraffe. So it's like really nameless, like you can't really pinpoint one type of animal, but which is true. Like we have a mythical creature that we call it hete in Korea, but I know in other countries like Tibetan, like dogs, food dogs, and is it a lion or a dog or tiger or a little bit of everything? And I also think of it this way, like how people see me. Are you Korean? Are you Japanese or are you Chinese? I got all three, before. So it's really interesting. It's hard to pinpoint and just kind of like, identify things are so quickly. And I sort of take advantage of that and then create my own mythological creature that carries peaches. And that peach is from Korean manuscript painting, so that a shape looks like bosom or little butt, and it reference body parts.
Right.
And I also make those in ceramic work as well. So they don't look like a fruit peach. They reference the body part more. I kind of like it. So in that way here, like it's earlier work. So the shape is very heavily influenced by the Korean manuscript painting, where guardians and gods, that they're having a feast outside, and peach is like, blossoms everywhere.
And there's a Chinese story, the Peach Blossom Spring, which was this magical sort of utopia that was always sort of just out of reach, right? And the blossom of peaches usually kind of connect with that. And I want to say that the lion, because in China they didn't really have lions, maybe off in the far west, but they didn't really have them. So lions came in with Buddhism, references to lions, and the descriptions of lions. And so artists, in a sense, created these sort of fantasy creatures that then went on to spread throughout East Asia as a sort of independent kind of mythological creation that you see
I
here.
think our Hete is like not a lion. I think it's a mythical creature, but mostly based on tiger.
More like a tiger. Okay.
Yeah, but like dragon also, when they describe nobody's seen dragon, right?
Right.
They dream about it, but they don't see it. It has like a ultimate power, the reference mostly king. But like the shape looks like snake, but head shape looks like giraffe, and then the scale looks like fish. So, and then the claw that looks like chicken, a rooster, not chicken, rooster. So it just reference ultimately everything good from itty bitty of other animals.
Right.
So that's how that's the identity of dragon. It's made up of like a bunch of different animals.
Sort of a Frankenstein of
yes.
all the best parts of.
Right.
Oh my God. Well, we've got we're kind of getting close to our time limit, and I want to just highlight these last two works that bring together the sort of fan shape with the peach shape, with the elements that we've been talking about, the dragons and masks and all kinds of wonderful things. So I wonder if we've got this one and then a second one, and happy to talk about either one of these that you'd like to.
We can do both. I mean,
okay, great.
So so I think this was prior to my ceramic like mask series came out. So I'm using a paper. Paper is very organic material, and I wanted to get out of rectangular format. It's like a rectangular format is such a Western given format, and people just like randomly or without any choice, they just look at it that way. And the horizontal way too, like our eyes are side by side, we are just meant to look at the landscape way all the time. But in often Asian traditional painting is long scroll, you kind of have to look at up and down. You're not familiar with that, but it's so a little bizarre. But I wanted to kind of step forward from my fan painting. It's not really square. I juxtapose two things, and my multiple fan paintings don't even have the background. But here, like, I'm wanting to sort of single out the using the heart, upside down heart shape, or in between like peach and heart shape as a big iconography, but also paper as a material. It doesn't have to be rectangular shape. So it's a big cutout painting actually. So the measurement looks like this, but it's just like a cutout upside down heart shape painting. And then as we also talked about the whole, like a referencing Korean mask, mask on one side. So that's when you hung it, you just kind of see the little bit of shadow. So that was the shape itself. It's really, for me, it's a powerful gesture of like using material as mulberry paper, the way it is, shaped canvas, I mean, shaped paper. So here, like using lots of different colors, and also I was referencing Mexican mask and bamboo, or like the recognizable shape, but then I replace with the different colors, so you kind of get lost and you don't know what you're looking at it at first.
Yeah.
And also Korean traditional pot, I was like more describing at the bottom, more realistic way, but then sort of like a spin off a different imagery. And one of the things that I can reference here is like a big yellow silhouette of dragon, if you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that is?
The gold leaf, is that
I'm sorry, not yellow, red silhouette of lines of dragon. Do you see it on the right side? Right center above,
here?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually dragon printed, screen printed on chopstick cover.
Oh.
And I got that reference because, like, you go to Chinese restaurant, Korean restaurant, you get this like a wooden chopstick, the cover, and you see the dragon often, right? So I got that imagery and then put it there. So it's like, oh, something familiar, but I don't know. I feel like I know this dragon, I don't know where, but probably Chinese restaurant. So
And something that's true of most art, the digital media doesn't really do it justice, right? I mean, you really want to see it in person, but in this case, I think that's absolutely true, because you've used gold leaf as touches in different places, and really that doesn't come across at all, but it must be a really beautiful work to see in person. Huh?
yeah, but yeah, it's not that, I mean, I don't think it's a bad photo, but it's not that great photo either, but it does its job. But the gold part is really like, nice, like nice and gold in real life. But that's also scrapbooking gold leaf. It's not really 14 karat gold. It's a fake gold.
Okay, interesting. And this is actually the last piece to talk about, and I think it's an opportunity for us to reference how you play with like letters and words and things like that, because there's a word here that looks like, if you didn't look at it carefully, you might think it was just Korean or something, but in fact, if you look closely, you can read it, right? You've got love.
It says "for in love."
And for it here, right? So for in love, right? And that's the title of the painting. I think that's really great.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a brown peach, right? Because I kind of like that idea of using the old stain, the brown paper. So this piece actually looks really kind of dark, and it's really deep color. So it's I don't know, it's a nice piece.
And it definitely references like those ancient paintings, from
Absolutely.
1,000 years ago, right? The silk
Right.
that has become discolored and all that. Yeah, that's really wonderful. Well, I think we've come to the end. I really want to thank you for giving us your time today, and for sharing all of your your thoughts about this amazing work that you've done. Is there anything that you'd like to say in conclusion before we wrap it up?
Not really, but thank you for having me. I had a great time talking with you, and I hope your audience like this too.
I'm sure they will. Thank you very much, Jiha.
Thank you.